The fallout from Vic Fangio mutually parting ways with the Miami Dolphins, well, it has begun, and we will discuss more on his departure tonight. Also, I'll discuss my top defensive candidates for this, for this search. We're just going to, hey, was there tampering involved? Because it sounds like this move happened way too quick for there not to be. We'll talk about that. Also, should Miami have just let Fangio walk? Should they have tried to get compensation? We got a lot to discuss, including I want to pose a question to the whole community. So, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Meet the field on the near side, man open. Touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. He's got it for the touchdown again. Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one, as it is the first day in the post short, and by the end of it, at least result-wise, somewhat sweet. Fangio era is over. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We'll talk about my top candidates. We'll also talk, more fallout. There was some stuff that came out after the show yesterday that I do want to go over with you guys and such. But before we get into that, listen, I didn't know me and Dougley going on Omar Kelly would shake the foundation of this community the way it did going on the All Dolphins podcast yesterday. And there's been, especially as the season ended, there's been a lot of back and forth. There's back and forth throughout the season. So what I want to ask, something that's been on my mind for quite some time, it's been discussed privately and such. I want to know, and I'm going to put a poll in the chat. Do you want to see an open panel debate about Tua and the Miami Dolphins between all the top content creators in the Miami Dolphins community? It's something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. It seems like there's been a lot of barbs thrown here and there from everywhere about Tua, about Fangio, a lot of stuff that needs to be put out on the table. And, I want to know what you guys think. If you guys want to see something like that, because I'll tell you right now, hey, if people need a safe space, I'm willing to put together that safe space. But clearly, there are issues, topics, and debates that need to be put on the table between top content creators throughout this community on X, on YouTube, etc. And, listen, I want to know what you guys think about that. Let me know in the chat right now, because, hey, everything, this whole community, what the creators, one of the main motives for creators should be to give the people what they want. No? Well, if the people want this, I know I'll show up. Right? I know I'll show up, and we can do whatever. We can do film, we can do debate, whatever. I know I'll show up, and I know I'll give the fans what they want. Will other people? Right? Your boy's like Bone Crusher. He ain't ever scared. So I got no problem pulling up and giving the fans what they want. But I want to know where the fan base is at with this, because this is going to continue to boil over all offseason, and maybe a healthy, constructive debate would get a lot of things out of the way so this offseason can go as smoothly as possible given the current circumstances. So you let me know in the chat. I mean, everyone is on the table. Everyone is on the table. Who do you want? I mean, I can call Omar. I can reach out to Big O. I can reach out to anybody you want on YouTube. And we can have a serious debate. I want all sides to be heard. I want the Tua haters and the Tua non-believers. I want the Tua lovers and the Tua believers. Everyone knows I got no time for Tua lovers and Tua haters. I'm here for the Tua non-believers and the Tua believers. That's what I've been saying for years. There's 4 categories. There ain't just 2 sides of this spectrum. And then, hey, there's people in the middle. I'm down. So you let me know. This is in your hands right now. The poll is up right now. And I'll leave that going for the whole show. Hey, people out here claim they want to give people what they want. Well, we'll see how much people truly care about you, because I know I care about all y'all, and I'll roll up for y'all. And we can keep it spirited. It doesn't have to turn into, listen, it can get loud, but it don't have to get personal. We can have a debate. Every side can bring their facts or what they think are facts. Now, if opinions get misconstrued as facts, I'm sure both sides would call that out. But if y'all really want to make some headway here, pull up. I'm always about it. Just tell me when and where. And I'm willing to offer that space. No muting. No nothing, none of that. No muting, no nothing. Just straight down the middle, football talk. Bring your facts. That's it. And it doesn't have to get personal. It shouldn't get personal. Hell, we used to do the Tuesday night panel, and there was a lot of disagreements on there that never got personal. So, from EM to ball game to EMTD to me and TD, me and ball game. So I'm just saying, it's on the table right now. I want to hear what the fans say. I've said my piece on it. I want to hear what the fans say. So the poll is in the chat right now. Because I'll say it again. Call me Bone Crusher. I ain't never scared. I'll pull up. No problem. And again, we can keep it fact-based. We can keep it a healthy debate. Sure, it could get loud. It could get spirited. But as long as everyone can agree to not make it personal, I'm ready to give the people what they want. Knight says Omar, TD, Lewis, El Capitan, Pupar, and Richmond. That's what he says. Knight, bro, you listen. The first poll is, do y'all want it? Who comes up, it's going to be all on you guys. That's all on you. Listen, I'm asking right now if you guys want it. Who comes up here, that's on all y'all. But I just want those people to follow through and actually show that, A, they're not ready to run from a debate, and B, that that's B, A, that they're here for all of y'all. And then they give y'all what you want. Coach AJ says Reason versus TD, the people's main event. Hey, whatever debate people want, I'll give them. I don't care. I want to see you talking to Curtis. Hey, if y'all want Ace per head up here, I will invite Ace per head. This is going to come down to y'all, not me. If this goes down, and it don't even have to be about Tua. There were things said about Fangio that were incorrect, that need to be discussed, right? People flip-flopped on Fangio. They fear-mongered you guys about Fangio, and then by the end of the season, they weren't really talking about Fangio, right? It don't have to be just a Tua debate as well. This is deeper than the quarterback. There's more issues with the team than the quarterback. Hell, we should be able to have an hour-long debate on Mike McDaniel alone. We should be able to have a healthy debate on Tyreek Hill and his whole 2K thing. There are multiple issues with the offense, let alone the team, not just Tua. So it should not. I agree with what someone said. They said, I love this channel, but I don't want it to be a Tua debate. It shouldn't just be a Tua debate. This should be, I said Tua and Miami Dolphins. Tua is obviously going to be the hot topic, but there are a lot of issues on the Miami Dolphins to discuss. So I'm just saying. The first is, do y'all want it? The second is, right? The second after that becomes who? Justin says, Phinside The NFL. Who's the guy? That was JT O'Sullivan from quarterback school. He played in the NFL for over 10 years. That's who that was. That was JT O'Sullivan. That was Ben Allbright, and I didn't use him as a source. If you actually go back to the tweet, I talked about Sean Desai coming here if Fangio stays, is literally what I said. And Ben Allbright, who is a Denver Broncos insider and covered Fangio for multiple years, said he's staying. So much so, Barry Jackson referenced the same tweet, his response to me, in one of Barry Jackson's recent articles. So, and if you actually go back and watch it, I never said that's 100% confirmation. If you actually asked it, I pose it as, is this confirmation that Fangio is staying with what Ben Allbright said? I never used that as a source on my Patreon. I never used that on my channel member only info. No, on my channel member only info and on my Patreon, I was telling people since the beginning of January, I was hearing Fangio was not the long-term solution. That's what I was telling the people who pay for sourced information from me. That's the sourced information they were getting from me. What you saw on my channel was a response from Ben Allbright had to me where I said, if he stays. So again, right? People are misconstruing, and I see people twisting narratives and not telling the truth. No. Was it a topic of the... Yeah, is this confirmation that he's staying? Buddy, last week I was talking with Omar Kelly, and the whole conversation was, is he leaving? And Omar Kelly basically told all y'all he was unsure because he's a wild card and he can leave. So again, I was giving differing viewpoints, but people ran with what they want to run with. And the show, who is a Patreon member, says reason is correct, was mentioned on Patreon. And it's under the channel. If you're a channel member, go under the community tabs and you will find it. Hell, you can go back to October and you can find when I was reporting that there was tension between X and Fangio, as well as Fangio, Campanelli. Everyone loves Campanelli right now. Well, guess what I reported in October? Fangio didn't want Campanelli to be retained. That was forced on him by McDaniel and the regime. That was not his first choice at linebackers coach. I had that back in October. So I had when talking about tension and backstage touch with Fangio since October. And then in January is when I started saying, hey, I'm hearing he's not the long-term solution. To the point I heard we got confirmation it was a 2-year contract yesterday. But I told everyone in January I was originally hearing that they originally discussed a 1-year contract. And he's gone after a year. So, I'm just saying. So, again, people out here trying to misconstrue what actually happened because they didn't watch what happened. Be careful. That's why I tell you guys, be careful who you listen to. Because I will give you both sides. Listen, there's no one that supports Mike McDaniel more than me. I wanted him when we were looking for a coordinator when we hired Godsey in Stootsville. I wanted him or Pep Hamilton, Mike McDaniel. No one's wanted Mike McDaniel longer than me in this building. But I will come out here and I will call out his flaws. Do you see me cowering when I have to face down the barrel of Tua being 2-6 in big games this year? No, I tell it what it is. He didn't win enough. And he needs to win more. Winning 2 out of 8 games is not good enough. I've said that since it's happened. 20% is not good enough. I don't care what world you're in. 20% success rate, in big moments in whatever industry you're in is not good. And there's no way around it. So I got no problem calling it down the middle. No problem. But, people try to call me a liar or this and that. Where did I lie to you about Tua? Other people told you Tua would never lead the league in passing yards. Other people told you Tua would never flash franchise quarterback or albeit Pro Bowl potential. Not me. What did I say? Flores' final year. If you get the right personnel on the sideline and you build this offense around him, he has shown that he could potentially be a franchise quarterback for you. And he's been in the MVP conversation 2 years since they did those two things. So I didn't lie to all of you. In fact, the film has taken us. And we could go back to the losing in big games. Go back to when we were on the Tuesday night panels. EM Dolphin fan was telling y'all back then he was worried about Tua winning in big games. So we never even turned a blind eye to that. We talked about that since he was at Alabama. Just saying. So we never run. We never, I try to give you all the full picture. All right? It's just I got players I like and I got players I not like. That's it. That's with everyone. So I'm willing to have a debate about all this. I'm willing to talk about not just Tua, but McDaniel, what's wrong with this team, offseason. I'm willing to throw all Dolphins topics on the table and get everything out in the open. Instead of everyone saying what they've got to say subliminally, let's just all put it out on the table. Give the people what they want. And so right now, the poll, it's at 81% that they want that. We could bring 12 people up here. I'll bring 12 people. I don't care. Now, it might get hectic in terms of everyone trying to talk, but I got no problem having a discussion and a debate over all things Dolphins. Griffin Gaming, member for 23 months, 1 month away from 2 years, says, I want Campanelli as DC. He's been here since 2020, has experienced 2 different defensive philosophies and 3 coaches, could create a true hybrid. Listen, I'm going to talk about it tonight, but if we're going in-house, yeah, Campanelli. Campanelli and Ronaldo Hill make the most sense, but I would go Campanelli. He's pretty much viewed as a pretty hot, defensive coordinator candidate around the league, not just right? Not just in Miami, right? He's viewed around the league. Deshaun, the only person I'd like you debating is Poupart. Bro, I'll bring Poupart up here. I don't care. It's all who y'all want. It's all who you guys want. I'm willing to give you guys who you want. Justin, I can try and get JT O'Sullivan. The problem with JT O'Sullivan is you have to actually book him. I can get Richmond. I can get Martin. I can get everyone you named. If they're willing to come up here, if they're willing to give you guys what you want, and they are really for the fan base, I'll give you everyone who you named here. And I got no problem. It's all about, are these people going to give you what you want? I know I'm here for the fan base, right? I can raise the people's eyebrow because I am the people's champ. Right? Remember, The Rock was a tweener. Rock was not a face or a heel. Rock was always a tweener. Now, he might have got cheered like a face, but he was always a tweener. So, Yeah, I got no problem being the people's champ. Anything they want, come get it. And we can all do it. And as long as everyone agrees not to take the debate to a personal level and let it spiral out of control, let it be football, fact, film, whatever the case may be, centric. I'm down. That's because I don't live off shock jock. I don't live off that stuff. I live off facts. I live off stats. I live off analytics. I live off the film. So, I mean, there's a reason why Omar, and I respect the hell out of him and love Omar. Why, you know, when he shouts me out, he shouts out my ability to break down film. Like, that is such an honor for me to hear someone like that give me that props. Because, you know, I work my ass off. So, listen, I'm down for whatever and however. So, anyways, we got a lot to talk about. So, let's talk about this. Let's get into this stuff here. This announcement with Fangio, I just do not see how there's not tampering involved. I do not see how the Philadelphia Eagles are not tampering. Listen, I've talked to people. You guys saw how fast those dominoes fell after Fangio made the announcement. It already came out today that he's flying out there and expects to sign. When he left, okay, listen. Look at how Sirianni set everything up. Look at the stuff that was coming out of Philadelphia, right? Here's what happened. When he was firing his staff, word came out of Philadelphia, what? That he went in front of the high-ups, the executives of the Eagles, and he told them he had a game plan, and they liked his game plan, and that's why Sirianni stayed on, and the staff is being replaced. So what does that tell you? That he went up in front of them, and part of his game plan, Fangio was part of the discussion. He told them, I can get you Vic Fangio, and I can bring Vic Fangio here. That's why they moved. And dirty work from Fangio to replace your disciple, Sean Desai, that way. But, and again, who could have been what? Sean Desai could have been what? Another backdoor contact between them. But they got hit last year for tampering with Jonathan Gannon and the Arizona Cardinals. And tampering goes on all the time. But this is blatant. Like the dust hadn't even settled in Fangio leaving Miami, and already you could see the propulsion from the jet engine through the dust as he was taking off to Philadelphia. Like, you cannot convince me this would probably be the most open and shut tampering case ever. And this is why I'm bringing it up. You know the league doesn't care unless it's us. Well, this is why I'm bringing it up, Knight. You came down on their asses last year over Arizona. I'm calling on them to come out and do an investigation on this. For him to mutually part ways and be to Philadelphia the way he was, he knew that job was open he knew that spot was opening up weeks ago. And when you go back to him being candid with journalists earlier this season when he was asked about the opening, and he said, I can neither confirm or deny that. He knew exactly what the deal was. He basically told all y'all without telling all y'all, if they didn't got caught tampering, I would probably be in Philadelphia right now. And I get people want to drag Greer, but this is a McDaniel call. This falls on McDaniel. Greer got McDaniel who he wanted since day one. Remember, they pressed Boyer and Crossman on him when he got here. He wanted Fangio from day one. But they pushed this on him, and so they went out and they made Fangio the highest paid coordinator because they wanted to get McDaniel his guy. And now McDaniel, I'll be objective. I'm objective. Flores. I hammered Flores for not getting the offensive side of the ball right, specifically the coordinator spot. Did I not? Well, guess what, Mikey boy? It's your turn now, because we are now, I want y'all to realize this. This is a franchise problem too. This is our 9th season we are going on a new offensive or defensive coordinator. Meaning, we haven't had the same head coach, the same offensive coordinator, and the same defensive coordinator for 2 years in a row in a decade. This is a McDaniel. I gotta call a spade a spade. And this is coming from a guy who's a McDaniel fan. Brother, you can't get this hire wrong, because if you get this hire wrong, your ass might be out on the street. Because if that offense steps back like it stepped back the last 2 years, whether we've had two or not in the lineup, if it takes a step back in December and January like it has the last 2 years, and that defense is worse than what Boyer or Flores put out there, Flores or Fangio, especially Fangio, if we go from a top 10, top 5 defense to like a top 20 defense, and we don't build on 11 wins, focus turns to Mikey boy. That's the truth. That is legitimately the truth. You better get this right, Mike. And this is coming from a supporter. I want you in that building. I want to see you grow. I want to have the best coach in football. I don't want to have to go on another head coach search. I'm rooting for your success, but you better get this right. Now, if McDaniel gets fired, would Tua be a coach killer like you say for other QBs? I tease you guys. I haven't actually called Herbert a coach killer. I said he's got 2 coaches fired, because 2 coaches have been fired while he's been there. But I don't even call Herbert a coach killer. You've never actually even heard those words from my mouth. Find me say the word coach and killer back to back. I've never actually said that. I've said Herbert's 2 coaches have been fired, and I've joked around and I've poked at the Tua haters and say, whoa, Tua got Flores fired, right? Well, Herbert's got 2 coaches fired. I've joked around and poked at the Bears with that, admittedly, but I've actually never called Herbert a coach killer. Never once. So, but I've joked around and said, I don't think Herbert got coaches fired, right? Well, I think everyone gets themselves fired. I think Flores got himself fired. I think Anthony Lynn got himself fired. And I think, what's-his-face got himself fired? Staley. I think coaches do it to themselves. I don't start blaming quarterbacks for coaches. Now, are there obvious, like Godsey and Stoodsville shouldn't have had a job based off of what we saw, what they did with our offense, not just our quarterback. Chan Gailey, should he have had a job? No, he should have been fired on what he did on our offense, not just our quarterback's development. It's deeper than the quarterback, right? Like, but again, those are coaches doing it to themselves. I mean, how far in life are you going to get if you start blaming everyone else? In anything, not just football. How far do you go in life if you just blame everyone else? At a certain point, you got to look inwards. Now, with Tua, again, I never even subscribed to the theory that Flores sabotaged Tua. Right? I used to push back on that when Flores was around. I never subscribed to it. Now, things have come out that have looked at clearly. Flores wanted to get his guy, get his way, and potentially, if that meant getting Tua out of here by any means necessary, that was on the table, sure. But sabotaging a player, if that gets out publicly, you will never be a head coach ever in the NFL again. Now, there's sly ways people will go to try and get their way, but I digress. You know what I mean? Anyways, heading back here, I definitely think there's tampering involved. I definitely think this needs to be looked into. This happened way too quick. Like, this happened so quick. It's unbelievable. Like, again, the dust didn't even settle, and the propulsion from the jet engine fucking flew through the dust and took a plane to Philadelphia with Fangio on it. Glenn says a debate with former NFL QBs or QB coaches would have more credibility. You are knowledgeable, but TD Finns has a following, but he has little basis for his opinions of Tua. Need neutral, qualified participants. Hey, I mean, that's your guys' call, man. I'm not here. Listen, I'm here to give the people what they want. If they want the debate, I will do my best to give it to them. It'll be up onto the people that all of you want to come up here. It'll be up to you, up to them, whether they actually show up. Are they going to let you guys down? Are they not going to be for the people? Right? You're going to see. If everyone's willing to show up, that shows you we're all about you. If people aren't willing to show up, that tells you where their motives are. Right? They're not about giving you guys what you want. I'm here to give you guys what they want, and this is something I've been thinking about for a minute. So, listen, again, would I be down to get JT O'Sullivan and Kurt Warner and such? 110%. You know? So, because I think Kurt Warner's words have been twisted. Look at Kurt Warner. Everyone wants to talk about one specific thing with Kurt Warner when he talked about the one Reed stuff, but they don't want to talk about why Kurt Warner said it's that way. How, you know, he brought up that there's a lot of two concept stuff, which you see Martin pull his hair over, how this offense isn't built to be friendly to hot reads and do check downs, right? And then, I mean, Kurt Warner himself, I've showed it on this channel, tweeted out, not many people can do what Tua does in this offense that's asked of him to do in this offense. I mean, that was his own words. And he talked about how no one in the NFL anticipates or, you know, like Tua, et cetera, et cetera. So no one talks about the stuff Kurt Warner positively says about Tua. They just want to highlight the negative stuff when I think the negative and the positive should be put on the table, not just one side. So that's why this whole point is let's bring all sides to the table. Let's bring all arguments to the table and let the people decide and let the people hear it. Right? It's all about the people, man. So this is me saying for the Dolphin fan base, though, Roger Goodell, look at tampering, because I'm a bet you second year in a row they're going to get caught and take away their draft pick. All right? I'm just saying. And right now, just an update, we're at 79% on that poll. So we have over 235 votes, and we are 79 to 21%. I'm just saying, beautiful stuff, all right? Appreciate all you, man. So let's keep it going because there is some stuff to talk about that happened after we went off the air. Interesting article that came out from Omar Kelly specifically, spoke a little bit more about what was going on with the Fangio thing. And also for Patreons, I had a massive Patreon update and channel member update yesterday. I talked about Connor Williams and his situation and if the Miami Dolphins may have pivoted to taking care of someone else as a higher priority. I also talked about all the scenarios I've heard that are on the table for Wilkins, and it's not as, you know, open and shut to him returning as people might have you believe. So, and also I talked about Anthony Campanelli and what I'm hearing from inside the building regarding Anthony Campanelli. So if you're a channel member, it's under the community tab. If you are a Patreon member, go over to the Patreon, go check it out. The update is there for you from yesterday. All right. And I also, talking about the center position, I named a name I've heard that the Miami Dolphins internally are high on, who is about to be a free agent. So there are some nuggets in that Patreon and that channel member info. I'm telling you, go if you're a Patreon, if you're a channel member, you haven't had a chance to read it, go after this show. All right. So let's get into it here. From Omar Kelly yesterday after we were done going live. All right. This is what went down with Omar Kelly. Omar Kelly, he said the Dolphins landed Vic Fangio as one of their top assistant coaches last offseason because they were willing to make the Grizzled coach the highest paid defensive coordinator in NFL history. But money wasn't enough to keep Fangio around for a second season. The Dolphins and Fangio parted ways early, ending his 2-year contract that was rumored to be worth $10 million, allowing the leader of the NFL's 10th-ranked defense to pursue other opportunities. And considering Fangio wanted to take the Eagles' defensive coordinator position after he'd accepted Miami's offer last season, it appears the Dolphins let him out of his contract so he could join the Eagles staff, replacing Matt Patricia and leading the defense of his hometown team. Again, tampering. Thank you very much. While Fangio did an admirable job coaching Miami's defense, which entered the Week 17 loss against the Baltimore Ravens ranked as the number 4 defense and set a franchise record for sacks in the season, Fangio's stubbornness and uncompromising ways didn't sit well with many players and other coaches. According to team sources, Fangio's performance was a major topic of discussion in Coach McDaniel's exit interviews, and there were a number of teams' top performers who either wanted Fangio to change his ways or be replaced, and flat out told McDaniel this. That's huge. Look at that. According to team sources, Fangio's performance was a major topic of discussion, and there were a number of teams' top performers who either wanted Fangio to change his ways or be replaced, and flat out told McDaniel this. Among the issues that troubled players were the handling of pass rusher Emmanuel Ogbah, who sparingly played despite contributing 5 sacks and an interception when worked into the defense's unwillingness to have cornerbacks Jalen Ramsey or Xavier Howard shadow the opposition's best receivers, and the treatment of rookie cornerback Cam Smith, who entered Fangio's doghouse before the season and never exited despite Miami's struggles at that position. According to a source, at times McDaniel had concerns about whether Fangio was willing to listen to him. However, McDaniel was aware of Fangio's personality and entered their relationship knowing he had a rigid, uncompromising style. And then it goes into his parting message, but we're not even going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this. What did I mention yesterday with Neil and with EM? I suggested that Ramsey was probably the final straw. As one of the leaders of this defense, when he went to him and said, hey, I want a shadow, and Fangio wasn't open to it, that didn't sit well when it already didn't sit well with X. So you had your veteran Pro Bowl talents, all-pro guys get turned down by him. If Fangio's not going to take them into consideration, what's he going to say to the other guys? Right? Javon Holland shows a video of him kicking rocks after Fangio goes. And look at, you know what's funny about the Cam Smith thing? I had heard, at least from X, I had heard that a lot of those cornerbacks in that room are fans of Cam Smith. Right? I've heard that he has been just trying to be a sponge off of X and Ramsey. He asks questions. He turns to them for advice when he comes off the field after a rep. Like, I've heard the players like him. And so when I see that makes sense that it didn't sit well with players. Like, it makes sense. And I know they like Ogbah, and I know, when you have elite defensive players, they know other elite defensive players or potential players or impact players. They viewed Ogbah, hey, he's an impact player. He should be getting more of a rotation. They viewed Cam's. You know what that tells you? Guys, the players were saying what y'all are saying in the chat. The players were saying, why isn't Cam out there? Why do we keep going back to Eli? And again, this falls on McDaniel. McDaniel, you have to be a head coach of the team. I get you run the offense, but you still have to be a head coach of the team. You can leave Fangio alone to run his ship, but you should still be able to talk to the guy. You should still be able to approach him. McDaniel should have let that be known. And hey, after one of those post-game shows with the Dolphin After Dark crew, did I not say one of the things Fangio probably doesn't like? What you think Fangio wants to? Fangio comes from being under guys like Harbaugh, who are cut from a totally different cloth personality-wise and stylistically than McDaniel. This was even new for him, and it just didn't mesh. So it is what it is. But it sure sounds like the more we hear, the players are happy. So let's go to PFN, and they pose a good question, and I want to hear you in the chat. We've already established there's probably tampering. So Miami Dolphins deserve compensation for Vic Fangio. The Miami Dolphins should have played hardball with Vic in Philadelphia, says Adam Beasley, and he's right. So let's begin by stipulating that Vic Fangio and the Dolphins probably needed to break up. Fangio and the Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel are probably too different for this to be a long-term relationship. It's true that Fangio's old-school approach rubbed some of his Zoomer players the wrong way. Those are real concerns, and if they were so significant that they were the only reason McDaniel agreed Wednesday to let Fangio out of his contract, we understand the logic, if not fully agree with it. But that's not the full story. There's one other important bit of context. The Dolphins were always Fangio's second choice. His number one preference was always the Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator position, and it seems as though he's getting his way. ESPN has reported that Fangio is traveling to Philly on Thursday to sign the contract and take over that role. The Eagles have a vacancy after parting ways with Sean Desai in recent days. The whole thing smells funny. See? Even PFN, even Pro Football Network says it smells funny. Was Fangio's year in Miami simply a cash grab? And did the Eagles tamper with Fangio? It's something the league should look into and hand out punishment if they're evidence. So it's not just some guy on YouTube saying look into it. You have Adam Beasley, who's covered the Dolphins for over 10 years, saying this. All right? But even if everything was done on the up and up, as in the Eagles went through the proper channels before making contact with Fangio's agent, something doesn't sit right. With the caveat that we're operating with only part of the information, it sure seems that Fangio, less than a year after signing the most lucrative contract by a defensive coordinator in league history, wanted to coach elsewhere. And the Dolphins, who still reportedly controlled his rights for another 2 years, let Fangio get away. Fangio had next to no leverage here. And by the way, so here, you're already seeing a discrepancy, right? Omar's reporting it was a 2-year contract. They're reporting it was like a 3-year contract, another 2 years, right? So there's a discrepancy. Fangio had next to no leverage here, and the Dolphins should have squeezed him and any team that was interested in hiring him. While it's rare, coaches do get traded from team to team, and so do the Dolphins. Could have demanded Fangio either honor his contract, retire, or convince his new team to cough up a draft pick. I agree. And even if it would have been tricky to pull off an assistant for pick swap, the two sides could have agreed to a replacement level player for pick trade that was so unofficially contingent on the Dolphins letting Fangio out of his contract. It not only would have given the Dolphins another asset in a poor offseason, it would have sent a message to the rest of the league. We're going to protect what's ours. The Eagles and Fangio's would have folded. They need him. And as he articulated in his introductory news conference last winter, simply can't quit the game even well into his 60s. That's who I am, he said. That's what I do. That's what I like to do. Somebody asked, how much longer are you going to do this? I don't know. It might be 10 years. Look at, he said, if they'll have me here for 10 years. It's just who I am, what I do, what I enjoy doing. Look at, even lied to the fan base. You know, I'll stay here for 10 years if they have me. Right there. I agree, Adam. We should have squeezed them. Why are we helping other teams? Why? We get nothing out of it. Not a damn thing. Anyways, I would have squeezed for sure. I agree. That's where Greer dropped the ball in all this. Greer should have told McDaniel, said, listen, we're not just letting him walk. We get something out of this. Now, continuing on even further here. I want to go over my candidates, and I want to talk about how I see this. Now, here are my candidates. Now, I've ordered it in terms of the first two are in-house. Then we get into experienced out-of-house into guys with lesser experience. All right? Now, this is not in order of preference. Let me preface this. These are the 11 guys I see, and really Chris Shula is an honorable mention because of his tie to Don. So, starting off, let's start off with Anthony Campanelli here. All right. For me, with Anthony Campanelli, you know, I mean, what's there to be said? You guys have seen how this defense, how the players respond to him. You know, he was a holdover here from the last staff. He was one of the people that was pushed on Fangio to stay here, right? You know, obviously he's an early favorite. It was a linebacker coach in Michigan. He's a defensive back coach and co-defensive coordinator at Boston College. He's a defensive assistant and tight ends coach and wide receivers coach at Rutgers. You know, the only issue that comes into play with him and Ronaldo Hill here is we can't afford for these guys to be figuring themselves out. They need to hit the ground running. They need to be successful. Like, the pressure is on them to produce right out of the gate when you look at Anthony Campanelli and Ronaldo Hill. Right? And I do prefer Anthony Campanelli over Ronaldo Hill. That's just where I'm at. Now, I have Don Wink Martindale here. And listen, I'm going to say this. His resume speaks for itself. It just does. All right? All right, when you talk about this guy and what he did with Baltimore from 2018 to 2021, unbelievable. You look at this year with the Giants, it didn't end well, but, you know, the Giants tied Baltimore this year with the most forced turnovers in football. And he didn't have as nearly as talented as a defense that we have. And I know for a fact, I know someone who sat down with him at a bar 2 combines ago when we were putting this defense together, and he told that person, I would love to coach that defense. Now, the problem here is, and that you're going to run into with, you know, Wink, here's the problem. Does McDaniel want to go to that defense? I don't think he does. But remember, you know, in 2018, I mean, they finished first in yards allowed and second in yards allowed, did the Ravens under him. They finished fourth in yards allowed and third in points allowed in 2019. Seventh in yards allowed and second in points allowed in 2020. I mean, he can get it done. Now, the thing is, the blitzing. I don't know if Fangio's I don't know if McDaniel's a fan of that and would want that around. But when you're talking about resume, he might have the best resume of anyone on this list right now, arguably. That's just what it is. So, I'm a fan of Wink. Always have been. Always have been. Now, number 2 here, and this would actually probably be my number 1 choice, is Ejiro Evero for the Carolina Panthers. He's kind of caught a bad break the last 2 years. You know, now, he was the quality control coach in Green Bay in 2016. He coached the safeties with the Rams in 2017, right? He was a defensive coordinator in Denver under Nathaniel Hackett and under Frank Reich in Carolina this year. Both head coaches were fired. All right. The only risk with Evero is he's of this list. He's potentially another one and done guy. He's a potential because he might be, if the defense has a good year under him, he'll be a hot coaching candidate. But again, he's cut from, right? He cut his chops in Los Angeles with McVay. McVay views defense similarly to what McDaniel does. So Evero does make sense. Evero makes a ton of sense here. And I would want him more than Staley. All right? I'm sorry, I just would. I'm a fan of Evero. I am. I mean, look at the Panthers and how crappy they were. They were 6th in yards allowed per play this year under him. They're not good. The only risk that comes is he might be another one and done. Brandon Staley, that's the choice that everyone keeps talking about here. It makes sense in terms of, right, like, it makes sense in terms of what we're looking for, defensively wise. And if you're looking for, somewhat of a seamless transition, right? Again, go back as Evero, you can trace him back to that Rams tree under McVay, right? And he has a pretty damn good resume. I mean, go look at what he did with the Rams. Go look at that Rams defense under Staley. And it's, again, that's the defense Raheem Morris took over. And Raheem Morris just got a head coaching job today, right? That was the defense that Staley helped build. I mean, look at what Aaron Donald was under him. I'm just going to say, Staley does have a resume. Leslie Frazier, I like what Leslie Frazier brings to the table. I know he's hungry for a head coaching position. I think he's a good defensive coach that got a bad, he got it bad from McDermott, right? I mean, he kind of got stiffed. Let's not lie to ourselves, right? Now, is he a good head coach? No. Not really. Minnesota went 21-32-1 under him. But there's a reason why he lasted over 5 years in Buffalo as a defensive coordinator. Loves to run that Tampa 2 stuff. Loves to run the Tampa 2 stuff that Dungy ran, right? Loves the 2 deep zone stuff, right? So he runs similar stuff to what Fangio was installing here. And in 2021, the Bills ranked first in the league in total defense and points allowed. In 2022, they ranked first in total yards and second in points allowed. So Leslie Frazier, he's got one. We're talking about a guy who's got a resume as well. Now, continuing on here, Ron Rivera. I'm lukewarm on Ron Rivera. There's a guy below Ron Rivera on this list that I would take over him. Now, he was a defensive. This guy's been a defensive coordinator since 2004, right? Defensive coordinator with the Bears, defensive coordinator with the Chargers. With the Commanders, his defenses were up and down, right? They were 4th in points and 2nd in yards in 2020, but then they're 25th in points and 22nd in yards in 2021. Then they were 7th in points and 3rd in yards in 2022. Then this year that just finished, they were 32nd in points and 27th in yards. But in 19 years as a coach or coordinator, his defense has finished in the top 10 in scoring 7 times and in the top 10 in yards 10 times. So, again, Ron Rivera does have the list, right? Ron Rivera, he's got the resume. Sean Desai and Chris Richard, Sean Desai, everything just went hot haywire in Philly. I would not give him coordinator reins. Chris Richard, like Leslie Frazier, has been out of the NFL for the last year, but I think Leslie Frazier is much more accomplished than Chris Richard. That's the difference. Leslie Frazier's resume speaks much higher volumes than Chris Richard's resume. And a name that really interests me here is number 10, Jim Leonard. You're probably looking like that and being like, Reason, who the hell is Jim Leonard? Or maybe some of you guys went and, Googled him while you saw the name. I don't know. But he's the ex-defensive coordinator for the Wisconsin Badgers. I know LaFleur loves him from Green Bay. LaFleur tried to lure him to Green Bay, right? And again, LaFleur, McDaniel, McVay, cut from the Shanahan cloth, right? Fangio, they all wanted Fangio. McDaniel was the one to land him. But, Jim Leonard, I know in that circle is a guy that's highly touted. Now, he runs a 3-4. This is a guy who He played at Wisconsin. He was, this guy, he's got a tie there, but he was just passed up for the coaching job. So at Wisconsin, so he went to Illinois as a senior analyst. Jim Leonhard is very highly touted in circles. Again, very successful as a defensive coordinator in Wisconsin. And then he was the interim coach after Paul Chryst was fired through the 2020 season. But then, right, they brought in a guy by the name of Luke Fickell, and Leonhard just went to the Fighting Illini and became a senior analyst. So he's looking for a job. If you're looking for a young blood, Jim Leonhard is a name. I would take Jim Leonhard over Chris Richard and Sean Desai and Ron Rivera. Now, Leslie Frazier and Brandon Staley might be more of a sure bet, but I would put him right up there. I like Jim Leonhard. And then another guy I have here is, Chris Shula, and I kind of put him up here. We're talking about a guy who he's young, right? He's got, who's he the son of, right? You know what I mean? So, I think that's I just put him out here on the power of his name. Now, a guy who I didn't put out there and again was passed over for Atlanta. The reason why he didn't make this list, I don't want Jack Del Rio. The reason why I didn't put him on this list, because I thought he'd get a job. But put him near the top of that list if he doesn't get a job is Mike Vrabel. If Mike Vrabel does not get a head coaching job, put him at the top of that list. Wherever you want to place him at the top of that list in whatever order, go ahead. Mike Vrabel needs to be looked at if he can come. I'm just saying. Please let me know what's up with Vrabel. I am monitoring that. I didn't think there'd be a chance they'd be around for a coordinator job. I didn't think there'd be a chance. Alf's in the chat. He asked about James Betcher, who's the linebacker coach in Cincinnati. He was the defensive coordinator with Arizona and the Giants. I think he was with San Fran too, right? It was like an assistant for like a year with San Fran. Now, I know in Arizona he ran like a 3.4, if I remember correctly. James Betcher, nothing's off the table. I would tell you that much. I'd put him above Kurt Shula on that list. I know you're a fan of him, Alf. I've seen you talk about him. I'm not going to lie. I like guys like Evero and stuff better. But you're not going to see me crying if Betcher comes in here. Again, a guy who has experience, right? So yeah, that's a solid one. So listen, those are the candidates I like, and I just threw Chris Shula was thrown in there for fun. I don't think he has a chance. I just threw them in there because it's the legacy name. I don't think he has a chance. Really look at the top 10 I had on those lists. And listen, Chris Richard and Sean Desai, I'd take Jim Leonhard over them. I think Jim Leonhard might be in. But again, this is why maybe a Betcher makes sense than a Jim Leonhard. We need a guy McDaniel needs to hit on this. We need a seamless transition. We can't afford massive regression on the defense, especially if this offense looks like what it's looked like the last 2 years in December and January. We just can't afford that. We just can't afford it. That's all there is to it. And speaking of coaching and the Dolphins, a few more staff changes. Offensive assistants Ricardo Allen and Mike Judge as well as assistant special teams coach Brendan Farrell, won't return for 2024 per source. All are now available for new jobs. So the house is starting to be cleaned. And I got to tell you this. I would have loved to see the look on Danny Crossman's face when he sees that Brandon Farrell, his assistant special teams coach, gets canned, but he's still got a job. Are you serious right now? And it goes back to what I talked about yesterday. Is this the year to fire Danny Crossman? If Fangio was staying, fire Danny Crossman. Now, I'd pull off the Band-Aid either way. But we have just embarked on a defensive coordinator search. Are they going to pile on a special teams and a defensive coordinator search onto Mike McDaniel right now? So, I don't know. You know, I would rip the Band-Aid off. I'd have fired, everyone. And then also, on top of that, Texas is expected to hire Miami Dolphins assistant defensive line coach Kenny Baker as its new defensive line coach. So Baker, one of the nation's top up-and-coming defensive line coaches, was the defensive line coach at Western Kentucky before joining the Dolphins. So there you go. Another young up-and-comer snatched from the Dolphins and will now be at the University of Texas. So, hey, it could have been worse. Ricardo Allen, Mike Judge, and Brandon Farrell sounded like they were canned, right? Kenny Baker just got a really good opportunity to become an assistant at the next level, right? To become a full-blown defensive line coach, be promoted from assistant to full-blown defensive line coach. So, hey, man, if better opportunities knock, you can't fault them for taking it. And then if you didn't see it, some of the AP award finalists, Cheetah, he was nominated for Offensive Player of the Year. Tua, he was nominated along with like Joe Flacco, Damar Hamlin, and Baker Mayfield and such as Comeback Player of the Year. So I think we all know it's going to be Damar Hamlin. Pretty much a foregone conclusion, right? But, hey. And for all of you voting, we're at 70-9. We have 346 votes. I want you to vote now. Do you want top Dolphins creators to have an open panel debate about Tua and the Dolphins? That's the first question. The next is you guys will decide who comes on that. I wish we could have Alf come up here, but I know he's exclusive to 3 yards per carry, and they've got an exclusive deal with 5 reason, because I'd love to have Alf up here for that debate as well. It's my guy right there. So, keep filling that out, guys. Let's get over to 400 votes if we can. There are about over 390 of you in the chat right now. So go ahead and vote. You know what I mean? Go ahead and vote. So listen, I'm going to be back tomorrow. Here's the deal. I'm going to be back tomorrow with Neil Driscoll. It's going to be a matinee show. Look for us in the day. We'll be live in the day. We got a lot to talk about. There might be a Dolphins After Dark coming Saturday, so be on the lookout for that one. That's going to be a good one if it comes. We're going to be talking about a lot of this stuff. And again, hey, I'm willing to open up my platform for a healthy debate covering all topics from Tua to McDaniel to the defense of different content creators. No more subliminal barbs being thrown about players or whatever, or journalists or whatever the case. I'm willing to host this. Hey, we don't have to make it personal. We can keep it fact-based, film-based, however you want it. And right now, we're talking about over 353 votes, and it's 79% to 21% in the chat. It's pretty dominant. So, listen, the fans are speaking. They want it. And now we're going to find out which content creators are really for the fans, because I know I'll pull up. I know Douglas will pull up. I know people will pull up given the opportunity. It's just those that may not, well, we're going to see. We're going to see. We're going to see, right? So the fans have spoken, and I appreciate all of you for coming out. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Again, I'll be live in the day tomorrow. A ton to talk about. Join the Patreon or become a channel member. I had a huge update yesterday that you guys are going to want to see about Wilkins, Connor Williams, Dolphins potentially pivoting, Campanelli's support in the building. Just a ton of stuff on there, so go check it out. Smash that like button. As always, fins up. I love each and every one of you, and I'll see y'all on the next one.